The sun had barely risen over the horizon when I stepped out of my cabin, the chill of the mountain air biting at my skin. It was another quiet morning, just like all the others before it. But today felt different. The peace I'd become accustomed to was about to be shattered. I was staring at the old oak gate of my property when a loud car engine roared up the driveway. I didn't need to look to know who it was. Karen, the HOA president, with her self-righteous attitude, as predictable as the sunrise. She slammed the door of her car and marched straight toward me, her heels clicking sharply against the gravel. I didn't move, didn't flinch. This had been coming for weeks. I had refused to let her or anyone else have access to my land. Now she was here, and I knew exactly why. "Good morning, Mr. Anderson," she said, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I trust you know why I'm here." I didn't answer. There was no need for pleasantries. I already knew the game she was playing. "I've been instructed by the board," Karen continued, "to inform you that your property now falls under new community guidelines. You've ignored several warnings about your land use, and it's time you comply." She handed me a thick stack of papers. I glanced at it, but I didn't take them. "You can't just waltz in here and tell me what to do with my property," I said, keeping my voice calm even though my blood was boiling. Karen raised an eyebrow. "I think you'll find the HOA has the final say here, Mr. Anderson." Her words were a punch to the gut, but I refused to show it. I had worked my whole life for this land. The mountain was my sanctuary, a place I could call my own. No one was going to take that away from me. "You think you own everything, don't you?" I said, the words slipping out before I could stop them. "You think because you have a title you can control everyone else? Well, not today." Karen's face hardened, her eyes narrowing. "You'll regret this. Don't make this harder than it has to be." And just like that, she turned and walked back to her car. But there was something in the way she moved, like she knew something I didn't. A cold shiver ran down my spine as I watched her pull away. I didn't know it yet, but this was only the beginning. Karen wasn't here just to enforce guidelines. She had a bigger plan. And soon I'd find myself fighting for much more than just my property. But for now, I stood there in the quiet morning, staring after her, knowing this wasn't going to end well. The days that followed felt heavier. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Karen's visit wasn't just a petty HOA complaint. It was a calculated move. But what was she really after? I spent hours on the phone with my attorney, Michael, a no-nonsense guy who had been through his fair share of property disputes. He listened to the whole story, and when I finished, he was silent for a moment. "This isn't just about the land, Eli," Michael said, his voice sharp. "She's trying to take your rights. She's trying to set a precedent. If she succeeds, it's not just you. This could affect every homeowner in this community." I rubbed my eyes. "What do we do?" "You're not going to like this," Michael said, his voice lowering. "But I think you need to dig into Karen's history. See who's behind her. I have a feeling this is bigger than it looks." I wasn't sure what he meant by bigger, but I trusted him. He wasn't the type to scare easily. The next morning I got to work. I combed through public records, past property sales, anything that might give me a clue about what Karen had been up to before she showed up at my door. That's when I found it. A string of similar cases from other homeowners in the area, all involving Karen or people she was connected to. I couldn't believe it at first. These weren't just petty violations. She'd been systematically pushing people out of their homes under the guise of community improvements. And the more I dug, the darker it got. But the real bombshell came when I discovered a report that mentioned a mysterious buyer. Someone who had been purchasing properties in this area under shell companies, moving fast and quietly. The name was buried in the paperwork, but I knew enough to recognize the pattern. This wasn't just a fight for my property. Someone was trying to take over the entire region. I couldn't keep this to myself. I called Michael immediately. "You were right. There's something bigger happening. Karen's working with a real estate mogul, someone who wants to turn this entire mountain into a luxury development, and I'm in their way." Michael was silent for a moment, processing everything. This isn't just a zoning issue, this is about power. And if they're willing to do this to you, they'll do it to anyone. You need to protect yourself and your family. I took a deep breath, the weight of the situation sinking in. What's the next step? Get to the bottom of this, and when you do, we expose it all. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. I wasn't just fighting for my land anymore. I was fighting for the future of everyone in this community, for people who didn't have the resources to stand up to this kind of corporate greed. It was time to stop playing by their rules. Time to take matters into my own hands. But I had to be smart. I had to know exactly who I was up against before I made my next move. The tension was unbearable. Every time I stepped outside, I felt eyes on me. Every knock on my door, every rustle. In the bushes, was it her? Was she coming back? But I knew I couldn't just wait around. I had to act. Michael had advised me to keep everything under wraps for now. Don't let Karen or anyone else know that I was digging into her background. So I kept to myself, even as the pressure mounted. Every day, it felt like something was lurking just around the corner. Then one afternoon, everything changed. I was out by the barn checking the perimeter when I saw a truck pull up my driveway. My heart skipped a beat. It was an unmarked vehicle, no logo, nothing, just a nondescript white van. The door opened, and I immediately recognized the man stepping out. It was Nash, the developer I'd found tied to the shady transactions. He didn't even look my way as he walked past, heading toward the front door. My blood ran cold. What the hell was he doing here? Was he the one making the moves behind the scenes? I didn't have time to second guess. I had to move fast. I grabbed my phone and hit up Michael. Get over here. Now, I texted him, barely, able to type without shaking. Nash is here, something's wrong. It didn't take long for Michael to show up, his car skidding to a stop in front of the house. He stepped out, his face grim. Stay back, I whispered to him, nodding toward the van. I don't know if he's alone. We waited, crouched, behind a stack of old crates by the barn. Nash was talking to someone in the van now. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was aggressive. Then, the passenger door of the van opened, and a man in a black suit stepped out. He was carrying something heavy in his hand. Suddenly, the man in the suit turned toward the barn, his eyes scanning the area. A wave of panic shot through me. Shit. He knows we're here, I muttered under my breath. Michael was already pulling his phone out, dialing someone. Stay low. I'm calling in a favor. The next few minutes felt like an eternity. Nash and his friend kept talking, moving around the house like they were looking for something. Or someone. Then, as quickly as it started, it was over. The van pulled away and they were gone, just like that. My heart was still pounding and I felt like I could barely breathe. What was that all about? I asked, my voice shaking. Michael didn't answer at first. Instead, he pulled out a small recorder from his pocket and played it back. Did you hear that? He said quietly. They're trying to make sure you don't find the evidence. I stared at him, confused. Evidence? What are you talking about? Remember the shell companies you found? He said, his eyes intense. They're not just buying land, they're using it for something much bigger. And Nash is the key. I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. What are they planning? Michael's eyes hardened. I don't know. Yet. But it's big. And I have a feeling they'll stop at nothing to keep it quiet. We both stood there, the weight of the situation settling in. It wasn't just about land anymore. It was about power, about control over something far more dangerous than any property dispute. The fight had just gotten a lot more serious.